I am an American, and therefore I can say whatever I want. I have freedom of speech. I don't live in Russia or in China, where I may get punished for what I said or locked up for what I said. Is that true?
To an extent.
Not exactly. Why not?
I don't know.
You're just figuring if I'm asking, the answer is probably no. To an extent?
Yeah, to an extent, because you can't yell fire in a crowded room.
Oh, okay. So there are some exceptions to the law of free speech in America. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater, for example. You cannot slander somebody by intentionally saying things wrong that are not true about them to hurt them. But the truth is that that statement was entirely not true. Because while I am an American, and while one of the great freedoms that our Constitution promises us is freedom of speech, I am I'm primarily a Jew. And Judaism does not guarantee freedom of speech at all. Judaism, as a matter of fact, does not guarantee any rights at all. Judaism does not guarantee you a right to your own property. Do you know that? Yeah. But here's what Judaism does do. Judaism says it's an obligation upon you and upon everybody else in society not to take other people's property. Now, a corollary of that is that you should hopefully have your property. If everyone's following their obligations, then I will have my property at the end of the day, because everyone's obligated not to take my property. But it's not like I have a right to anything. Judaism is just simply not a religion based on rights. It's a religion based on responsibilities. So, while I may have a right to free speech in Judaism, in American law, there's absolutely no right to free speech in Jewish law. Instead, we have a responsibility, a mitzvah, for what we call responsible speech. Now, responsible speech is not just don't cry fire in a crowded theater. Responsible speech also means don't hurt other people with what you have to say. Now, by American law, if my friend just recently lost his job because he stole from the company he works for, I'm allowed to tell the whole world. By Jewish law, I'm not allowed to. If recently a friend of mine was going up for their graduation in their cap and gown, and as they were climbing up those steps, they tripped on the gown part of their cap and gown, and they fell down. It was like a whole ruckus. I'm not allowed to come home and say, oh my gosh, you should have seen what happened. Frank was climbing up the podium to get his degree, and he tripped on his gown. It was like it was crazy. It was so embarrassing. I'm not allowed to say that because I don't have a right to free speech. I have a responsibility I have a responsibility for compassionate speech. Okay. Now, what we're going to start off with today is we're going to discuss that there are 5 different forms of Lashon Hara. There are 5 different forms of negative speech that we are not allowed to speak about. So let's give some examples, and you tell me whether you think these ones are allowed or are not allowed. Okay. You have 2 guys who are working for the Dunder Mifflin Paper Company. And things in the office get very intense because everybody is jockeying for that highly coveted position called middle management. Ooh. Now, Sean and John have been competing for this for a while. And one of the middle managers is about to retire. Someone's getting promoted. And their competition has ratcheted up a little bit over the last few months. Now, their particular office has to submit a report to corporate headquarters every month, a detailed report, detailed accounting on all levels of the business. And it's supposed to get in by 5 p.m. on the last day of the month. The month of November it did not get in on time. And Sean is at the water cooler with Debbie, one of the accountants, and Debbie says, hey, do you know why we didn't get our report in time this month? And Sean says, yeah, well, John didn't have his numbers ready on time. Is that allowed? 100% true. If it wasn't true, by the way, definitely not allowed, right? That would be slander. But what if it's true? So Debbie wants to know, why didn't we get our report in on time? Is Sean allowed to say, well, it's because John didn't get his numbers in on time? If you think yes, raise your hand. If you think no, raise your hand. If you're undecided, raise your hand. And if you're right now thinking about the Pistons, raise your hand. Let me pause for a blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'akol nihiyeh b'dvaro.
Amen. Rabbi, is there something you're not telling us, some other information that we need?
No.
You hold back on us sometimes.
Sometimes I do hold back on you, but not this time. That is scenario number 1. Scenario number 2. A bunch of the guys from the office are hanging out at a lounge after work, having some drinks, and the topic of the missed deadline comes up. And Sean says to John, hey John, man, you got to get him in on time, man. If you got your report in on time, the whole office would have had it in on time. He's not saying anything behind John's back. He's saying it straight to John's face. Is that allowed?
No.
No. If you think yes, raise your hand. Okay, if you think no, raise your hand. Pistons? Okay. Next. Scenario number 3. Now here's where it starts to get dicey. Sean notices that John is glossing over certain numbers in his report. That's not allowed. This could be potentially damaging to the entire office. Can Sean then report it to the office manager, despite the fact that it may cause John to lose his job? If you think yes, raise your hand. If you think no, raise your hand. Alrighty. Next. Sean and John meet at the... Where do they meet? At the water cooler. Okay?
The well.
Sean and John meet at the well, at the water cooler, and there's no one else there. So just Sean and John. And Sean says to John, hey man, you're the hold-up guy. You gotta get your act together. You're the hold-up man. Is that allowed? No one else is there. He's saying to him, you're the hold-up man. You gotta get it together. Is that allowed? If you think so, yes, raise your hand. If you think no, raise your hand. Alrighty. Pepsi Cola? What does that mean? Okay, fine. Next, and here's our final one scenario today. A bunch of people are in the water, the water cooler is getting crowded already by now. It's getting crowded. So a bunch of people have moved into the little kitchenette they've got over there, eating their granola over yogurt, and one of the guys eating his sandwich from Five Guys Burgers and Fries. And they start talking about different people in the office, and John's name comes up, and Sean says, man, I don't even want to talk about John. Is that allowed? No. Okay, here we go. So let's see, we're now going to spell out the 5 categories of Lashon Hara, and we're going to explain what they are. We've got Lashon Hara, Rechilut, Motzi Shemra, Ona'at Dvarim, and Avak Lashon Hara. Okay, let's go through them one at a time. Lashon Hara means hurting someone through speech. That is true. It's 100% entirely true. It is true that when Paul was going up to receive his doctorate in molecular chemistry, he tripped and fell on his gown. He should have gotten a degree in fashion, but he even noticed his hemline was a bit loose. But he didn't. He got a doctorate in molecular chemistry, and as he was going up, of course, he's getting a doctorate, so he's got all those stripes, and it's the big one, you know the gown. You know the gown. It's not the standard gown. It's the one with the big stripes on the side. And he's going up to get his doctorate. He fell and tripped on his... Now, it's 100% true. I come home, I'm like, guys, it was crazy. Paul went to go get his degree. He got a doctorate in molecular chemistry, and he tripped and fell all over his gown. Is it true? 100%. Is it allowed? 100% not. Is Sean allowed to tell Debbie that the reason why the report got in late was because John didn't get his numbers in? It's 100% true, and he's 100% not allowed to tell Debbie. Debbie's not the office manager. She's not trying to find out what's going on and why we're late. She's just snooping around for information, and he's not allowed to tell her. Next situation. This is called rechilut, or rechilus. This is when you say something to someone else that is true, and it's not negative. Remember, Lashon Hara is negative speech that is true. Rechilus is negative speech, is true speech, and it's not negative, but it's going to cause one person to hate another person. How could that be? Who could think of an example? Go for it, Jerry.
So-and-so got a new Mercedes-Benz.
Okay, and who's going to hate who?
Well,
Everybody's going to hate them.
cause someone to get jealous.
Okay, good. That's a good example. It's more jealousy, though. All right, let's try to get like hatred. Let's get hate. Let's get some deeper emotions here than standard blasé jealousy, which we all do all the time anyway. Okay, now
A backstabbing comment?
a backstabbing comment would generally be negative.
Well, it could be true. I mean,
Like
someone
what?
says, do you know what so-and-so said about you?
Okay, the problem is that could be an example when it's negative. Now that's true. That would be a form of rechilut because it's true and it will cause someone to hate somebody else. But it also would be negative.
Okay, that's not negative, okay.
It would also be rechilut.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking
Oh, you got
at
your
my
notes over
line.
here. What do you got? You Googling it? No.
No.
All righty. Go for it.
No, can you just repeat what they say, because we can't.
Sure. She said, let's say I go over to someone and say, hey, do you know what Phil said about you at the meeting last night? He said that you're clumsy and slow, and I can't believe he said that about you. Now that for sure will make this guy hate Phil, unquestionably, and that is a form of rechilut. But I want you to go further. I want you to think of something that is not even negative. Meaning Phil was wrong for saying something like that about Bob in the meeting. I want you to think of a scenario where I will tell you something about somebody else that will make you hate them, and they did absolutely nothing wrong. It's true, and it's not even negative, but it's going to make them hate somebody else.
If two people are competing for a job and the third person finds out that party A got the job and runs to party B to tell him, that would cause party B to be not only jealous, but actually hateful because he felt he was going to win.
Okay, good. That's a good one. What she said was, if, let's say, two people are competing for a job and I just find out that John got the job, and I know that there's this big competition between Sean and John, and I go running over to Sean and say, hey, did you hear John got the job? I'll give you another example. Let's say Bob is making a party, a Hanukkah party, for his friends. And I got invited. But I know that my friend Phil did not get invited to the party. And Phil thinks he's friends with John. I mean, they're friendly. And Phil was definitely, Phil was definitely hoping to get invited to that party, right? Meaning, everyone knows John throws the best Hanukkah party, right? Human dreidels spinning around the room. Right? You get whatever you want today. We are upping our game as we go. We're finding more and more ways to spend more and more money at a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, Hanukkah party, you name it. Okay, so I casually go over to Phil and I say to him, hey man, I got that invitation to John's party. Is it true? It is true. Is it negative? Was it wrong of John to invite me to his party? Absolutely not. Does he have to invite Phil to his party? Absolutely not. But when I say that, that's going to make Phil hate John. You guys with me? Yeah. So it's true. It's not even negative, but it's going to make people hate each other. And that's exactly why I'm doing it. To go stick the knife in and get them to be fighting. Da-da-da-da. There you go. Yes?
I have an opposite case of those situations. Sometimes a person who's not included gets upset when someone who's included doesn't tell them as well.
Uh-huh.
I mean, sometimes you.
But that you can't blame them for. Right.
No, you can't. But sometimes that person feels.
Like, why didn't you tell me?
That they've got a friend who was included and they weren't, and the friend is trying to
hide it from them.
Either they're trying to hide it or they just have not thought about it.
Right. So that you should know. Okay. So this is a good scenario to talk about. Let's say I got invited to John's party. Phil did not get. And then Phil finds out later that I was invited but never mentioned it to him. And says, hey man, how come you didn't mention it to me? Then I need to say to him straight out. I need to say, you know why I didn't mention it? I didn't want you to get angry at John. Well, I was going to find out anyway, and now I'm so angry at you. That's your problem. You're getting angry at me for not telling you Rechilut? Sorry. Sorry. Take it up with the, as we used to say, complaints, fifth floor. Right? There's no fifth floor. All righty. Go ahead, Gene.
Now you're using the word hate. Now, I'm trying to picture this, because I think we all have not been invited somewhere, and we find out, but I wouldn't hate, I would like...
Good for you, Gene.
Yeah,
No, but I appreciate you, but the reality is a lot of people do hate.
yeah, but that's a very strong scenario to hate, because you...
Okay, so you want to use the word dislike. We can use the word dislike.
Well, it can cause you hurt feelings.
No, but
hurt somebody.
it's very kind of you that if you would get not invited, you would only just be hurt yourself personally and only take it reflectively.
Right.
But a lot of people will then take it out on the other person and get angry at that person, hate that other person, dislike that other person. That's just the reality. Okay, hold on. We got to slow down with comments on this one because we got a lot more. There's so many more exciting things. Okay, now we go to the third one. So we got Lashon Hara, we got Rechilus. Now we go to Motzi Shemra. Motzi Shemra is when I say something negative about somebody else that's not even true. Did you hear that Mr. Goldstein was arrested for a drug possession? No, I didn't. I can't believe it. I never knew that. Yeah, he's got some lawyers. He's covering it up really well. No one will find. It's off the record. I'm telling you, but don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. It's off the record. You won't be able to find it anywhere. He's good. He got all these attorneys on it. But I'm telling you, I was outside of his house. It was early in the morning, and all these SWAT teams came there. It's crazy, and it's entirely not true. That is super bad. That's Motzi Shemra. Okay. Now we go to the next level. O na'as dvarim. Painting someone with words.
Wait.
Okay. O na'as or o na'at dvarim. Okay? This means painting somebody with words. We haven't even delved into our source sheets yet. We'll get there soon. Okay. So, for example, this is hurting somebody with words. You're not saying anything negative, meaning you're not going around their back to anybody else. You're just saying it to them. For example, let's say somebody has a family member in prison. And in prison, they all wear, forest green. All right? And I see that guy walking around one day outside wearing a forest green polo shirt. And I say to him, hey, Bob, I almost confused you with your brother over there with that shirt. Did I say anything, not true or anything? No, I'm hurting him. I'm needlessly hurting him. I'm not saying it to anybody else. I would never, God forbid, talk to anybody else. I'm just joking around. This is where passive-aggressive stuff comes in. Because we can just defend ourselves. No, I'm just joking around. That's what we call passive-aggressive. Where I can hurt you and jab at you and needle away at you all day, every day. And then the minute you say, hey man, you're being hurtful, I'm like, come on man, I'm just joking around. Don't be so sensitive.
Can't you take a joke?
Can't you take a joke? Exactly. Another example. A person in his past life used to be a criminal. They used to break into safes, people's houses, whatever it is. And now, thank God, this is way in the past, 20 years earlier. And now the person's clean, they're good, they're an upstanding citizen. And he and I come to, we're going to an event or something, and we get to a gate, and the gate is locked. And I'm like, I know you can take care of that. Reminding him of his previous past. Not allowed. Not allowed.
Also somebody who's converted and referring to them as a goy.
Well, that's for sure forbidden. Yeah, that's another example, right? If someone's converted, and forget even referring to them as a non-Jew, right? That would be horrible.
Yeah, that would.
Exactly. But even less than that, even if a person used to be not Jewish, and then you sort of just keep reminding, you're driving down the streets during Christmas season, for example, and you're like, that must have been your house back in the day. I'm sure you had all the deer and reindeer nativity scene and the whole shebang. Was your Rudolph with a big flashing red light? He's just like digging it in. That's not what he does right now. It's uncomfortable for him. Why are you doing that? Here's other examples. When people used to come to the country, when people used to come to America, there was always like a sort of a tension between the landed people who were here in America for a while and what they used to call the greeners, the new people, the newbies. So for example, they used to tell people, like even within their own community, it's embarrassing, even within the Jewish community, they would tell people that America exports lefties, like kicks them out. And you know, these people who are lefties who would spend time trying to teach themselves to write with the right because they were afraid they were going to get kicked out if they were discovered or whatever it was. Or they would tell them that, you're not to sit down on these benches until you get your green card or whatever it is. It's just wrong. Here's another example. This is something that I did one time, just so bad. My brother was getting married. And most of my family lives in Israel. And they all came in for the wedding. But mind you, when they came in for the wedding, they had never met my sister-in-law before that weekend. So here I am. By this time, I'm probably, I'm in my 20s, like maybe early 20s. I was like kind of the cool brother. And I'm talking to my younger brother, at least I'm cool in my family. No one else thought so, but in my family. I'm talking to my younger brother. He's probably like 8 years my junior. And we start talking, and my sister-in-law's name comes up, the one who's about to get married to my brother. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. It's terrible. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, listen, she's terrible for him. She's this and she's that. Now, of course, he's very impressionable at that age, right? So he hops on the bandwagon. He's like, yeah, I noticed. She's terrible. She's this, she's that. And then, what can we do? What should we tell him? And finally, I'm like, I was joking. And my brother felt like such an idiot, right? Because I was like, I was joking, but he just said all those terrible things. I knew the whole time I was joking. He was saying these terrible things about my future sister-in-law, and he just felt incredibly embarrassed. Like, I just played it was a cruel trick on him, right? Okay. Those are all under the category of ona'as dvarim, hurtful words. I'm not saying anything bad about you to other people. I'm not slandering you, negative, true, false. Just between me and you, I'm saying things that are going to cause you hurt for any number of reasons. Okay. Lastly, avak lashon hara. Avak lashon, the word avak in Hebrew means, anybody know Hebrew? Dust. There we go. The dust of lashon hara. You got a little pixie dust that comes off of pixies. You got little lashon hara dust. It's not lashon hara. No. It's only like the implication that there could be lashon hara there. For example, saying what? It's nothing bad. I will not say anything bad, but sort of there's an implication there. Give me an example. I gave you one previously. How about that? Okay, I'll tell you. The example is where I say, I don't want to talk about John. Did I say anything bad about John?
No.
Absolutely not.
You implicated.
I implicated. There was negative stuff to say about John, and I don't want to talk about it. But that's already negative. That's the dust of lashon hara. All those things are forbidden. And we, Jews, who do not have free speech, but rather the requirement of responsible, moral, compassionate speech, we are not allowed to employ any of those five. We will see, however, that all rules are meant to be broken. Well, not all rules, but most rules are meant to be broken, and we'll see where there might be exceptions to this in a little bit later. Let us see some of the sources here. All right, source number 1. Leviticus 19:16, Vayikra 19:16. Lo telech rachil ba'amecha. You shall not telech rachil, which we'll see later what that means in a second, amongst your people. And lo sa'amod al dam re'echa, you shall not stand idly by your friend's blood, for I am Hashem. Here's another interesting difference, another interesting divergence between Jewish law and American law. By American law, let's say I'm strolling down the road on a warm, sunny July afternoon, and I hear yells and shouts, help, help! So, okay, I quickly run to the source of the sound, and there it is. I run into someone's backyard, and they're in the pool, and they're flailing and they're drowning. Now, by American law, am I required to save that person? Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, I could take out my phone and say, this is awesome. Imagine how many hits it's going to get. And I take out my phone, I start videotaping, and he's like, save me! The thing's right there, just throw me the thing right there! You know, there's like a little, a lifesaver. Just throw me the lifesaver! I'm like, no! He's like, please, I'm dying! I'm like videotaping it, I'm like zooming in on his contorted face. What kind of sicko would I be? Obviously very, very sick. But at the end of the day, glug, 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 save me, glug, 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 and he's dead. And I hit, boop, upload. And of course, within minutes, there's millions of views. People are outraged all across America. What kind of sick person stands by and watches somebody dying? And they're out for someone's blood. The people are out for justice. They're out for someone's blood. They go back to the court. The cops come and interview me. At the end of the day, can they charge me for anything? Nope. If I was a public safety officer, if I was hired to save people, like I was a fireman or a police officer or whatever it was, then yes, they can charge me for dereliction of duty. But if I'm just a standard American, I could have saved them, I could have been a good Samaritan. But if I don't, sorry, tough luck. By Jewish law, that is not the case. You shall not stand idly by your friend's blood. You are not allowed to. You must save your brother. Which, by the way, brings up all kinds of moral questions. For example, if you want to just get into crazy moral dilemmas. During the Holocaust, there were times where Jews could be bought. With money, you could literally save Jewish lives. $1,000, $2,000. What kind of responsibility did a person have during that time? These are tough questions. I can't stand idly by my brother's blood. Am I required to eat nothing but bread and peanut butter for the next 5 years for the whole war? Am I required not to buy a new car? Like, what are the levels of responsibility? Obviously, when he's right in front of you, you have a responsibility. Even today, there are all kinds of situations. These bring up very big moral dilemmas. But let's not wade into heady moral dilemmas today. This is a nice, friendly lunch and learn. We're not going to get to that. But what we will say is, why is this in the same verse as not speaking gossip? Why are these two things exactly next to each other, juxtaposed to each other in the same verse? Yes?
Because to not help somebody who's dying is to let them die, or almost to be a party to killing them, if you could reach out and help them. And to speak badly and cause terrible words about somebody is to assassinate their character. Good.
So that's for sure true, right? When I talk negatively about somebody, to a certain degree, the Talmud says that when I speak bad about somebody, let's say we're all standing around in a circle, and no one knows that Frank tripped on his gown and fell down in front of everybody at the graduation when he got his doctorate, and now we're at the party after his house, and there's 15 people all around them, and they're having a great time, and suddenly I say, hey, Frank, man, that was hilarious when you tripped on your gown and you fell down and everything started coming apart and wardrobe malfunction, whatever. And this poor guy, Frank, turns beet red, or all the blood drains from his head. He turns like white like a ghost. To a certain degree, it's considered like you're killing the person. They don't want to be there right now. When you kill somebody, you're removing them from the world. They're so embarrassed right now that you just said that they wish they weren't there. And all the blood drains from their face. Like when you kill somebody, the blood comes out. That's like micro-killing. So while nobody here has ever killed anybody physically on the macro level, we've probably all killed people on the micro level through insensitive speech. And what if I'm in that crowd? What if I'm in that crowd and somebody just railed on somebody else? Do not stand idly by your brother's blood. You can't just sit there watching him be embarrassed or take party of those laughing at him. You got to stand up for him. No, it's no big deal. Listen, I did it too when I was graduating, or whatever it is, right? You got to stand up there and defend him. Don't stand by. Somebody just got humiliated in a group setting. Don't stand idly by his blood as it's rushing out of his face, as he's micro-dying. Stand up for him. And why does the verse end with the words, "For I am Hashem"? For I am Hashem, the verse ends. You know why? Because you could say, "Oh, I was just joking, I was just this." God says, "I'm God. I know that you weren't just joking. I know that you were trying to attack him passively, aggressively. You can claim, you can feign innocence in front of everybody else. No, I didn't mean it. I didn't realize. You just told John that, you just told Phil, I'm sorry, that John invited you to the party." What? He didn't invite me? Oh, I didn't know you didn't know. God said, "I'm God. I know that you knew that he didn't know. I know that you were trying to instigate something over here. No, I didn't know. I'm so sorry. I never would have said anything. I am Hashem. I know the scoop. You can feign innocence to the world. You can't feign innocence to me. Go for it." Yes?
In your example of Frank tripping across getting his diploma, is there any prohibition about Frank making fun of himself?
No. However, it's actually interesting. No. You can use self-deprecating humor. I use it all the time. However, when at certain extreme levels, there's actually a fascinating story. The Chafetz Chaim was a rabbi. One of the most, I literally just this morning, I was explaining to somebody about what the Chafetz Chaim, he was a rabbi named Rabbi Yisrael Meir HaKohen Kagan. He was a Kohen. He died in the early 1930s. He was, first of all, he knew everything. He wrote a couple of masterpieces that are mainstays in every Jewish library, should be. And one of them was the book called Shmiras Halashon and Chafetz Chaim, which goes through in depth. It's two sort of books that are often sold or even printed side by side. One tells you he collected all the write-ups from the Talmud and the Torah and the commentaries, every possible source that he could find on the laws of proper speech. He wrote one book about the laws of proper speech, what's considered right, what's considered wrong, what are you allowed to say, what are you not allowed to say, and one book that explains all the philosophy, why it's so bad to speak gossip. And he literally brought awareness on a super high level to the Jewish world of responsible speech. As a matter of fact, to this day, in most, I know for sure, in almost every Orthodox Jewish school, they read every day in every class about these laws, about how to be sensitive in speech. And it has an enormously high level of knowledge. I remember, it was actually right there, right through those doors in the lobby during the book fair of the JCC. And there were a couple teenage girls standing. I was looking at some books on one of the shelves, and there were a couple teenage girls standing literally not 4 or 5 feet away from me. And they were talking such venomous gossip. It was like I couldn't. I'm always, you should all read the Chafetz Chaim's book. It was like amazing. They're just literally just bashing this girl and that girl and viciously. So the Chafetz Chaim really raised awareness to this concept of responsible speech. Now he used to be of the opinion that you're allowed to speak negatively about yourself. And then he had a very interesting story that made him almost reconsider. It's still not totally forbidden. Like Frank definitely can say, that was crazy today. I fell on the stage. I'm getting a doctorate in molecular chemistry and I can't figure out my gown over here, you know? Of course, Frank probably doesn't usually wear gowns, so it's somewhat excusable. But in any case, but the story of the Chafetz Chaim that's fascinating is, so he was once on a train and he was going to visit a particular city. Now, if you've ever seen pictures of him, actually recently, about 4 or 5 months ago, someone uncovered a video taken in 1923 that had a live video of the Chafetz Chaim walking into a major Jewish conference, and I think it was in Poland, in 1923. And like the whole, like it broke the Orthodox internet, you know, because everyone was downloading and watching this video. It's amazing. I just watched the video today because I was talking about the same rabbi today. He was a short man, a man of diminutive stature. He got a white beard, and he's very old at this time, and he walks with like a swiftness to his gait. He's always looking down. He's a very humble person. But he never wore like any kind of rabbinical garb. He wore a simple hat, like a newsboy cap, you know, like a worker's cap. He didn't wear like a big rabbinical hat, and he didn't dress with very fine, you know, whatever, like a lot of the rabbis did, which there's nothing wrong with them doing that. They want to project. Judaism is refined, but his was a very humble way. So he's sitting on the train, and he starts schmoozing the guy next to him. He says, "Where are you going?" "Oh, I'm going to Vitebsk," or whatever, Vitebsk. "Why are you going to Vitebsk?" "Don't you know? The Chafetz Chaim is going to Vitebsk. I want to go hear him speak. He's such a great man. He's the greatest of our generation." Chafetz Chaim says, "Nah, he's not such a great man. He's just a regular Jew." The guy says, "What are you talking about?" "No, he's not." So the guy says, "Yeah, I'm telling you. The Chafetz Chaim, he's just a regular Joe. He's a sinner like all of us. He's not a perfect man." And the guy starts getting angry. "What are you talking about?" And the man gets so angry at the Chafetz Chaim that he hits the Chafetz Chaim.
Wow.
And after that, the Chafetz Chaim said, maybe it's not such a good idea to make fun of yourself. So it depends, of course, on the levels and how extreme and on the scenarios. You know, if you come home from graduation and you're joking around with your friends, I think it's okay, a little bit of self-deprecating humor. But like sometimes going really negative against yourself, maybe somebody doesn't know, can cause situations that are less than desirable. So it's good to be careful with that. Okay, now, so that's the first verse. Do not telech rachil amongst your nation, which we'll see what it means, to go like a rachil. And do not stand idly by your friend's blood. Don't watch someone being verbally butchered and just sit by quietly because you don't want to say something, because right now they're in the middle of being bullied by the popular person, and if you say something, they're going to turn on you too. Don't stand idly by your brother's blood. And I am Hashem. I know what the deal is. I know your intentions. I know what you know and what you don't know and what you're thinking and what you're not thinking. Don't pull the whole passive-aggressive, I was just joking around. Okay, what is Telech Rachil? Let's see Rashi. Rashi's always a great commentator. Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki lived from the year 1040 to the year 1105. Primary commentator on the Torah says the following. I say, this is source number 2, that due to the fact that all those who instigate evil and relate malicious talk go to their fellow's house to spy out whatever evil they may see or whatever evil they may hear so as to relate it in public, therefore they are called those who go as a rachil, i.e. those who go as a spy. The proof of my words is that we do not find the word rechilut used anywhere else in Scripture without being used in the context of going. So he says it's almost like you're like a spy, because you're sitting there quietly gathering all the negative dirt on everybody and then relating it back to the mothership, whatever that mothership is. Your friends, you're this, you're this. So that's what the first explanation of don't go like a rachil is. Don't be a spy. Don't sit there quietly, watch other people's negative behavior, and then report it to other people. Okay? Now there's another one. There's another explanation brought down in Nachmanides, also a great commentator from the early commentators, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman. Source number 3. The way of those who engage in rechilut is to go to the masses or to the local ruler. This is even worse, where you tell Lashon Hara about a Jew to a local ruler. By the way, there were times in Jewish history where people within the Jewish community would inform on other members of the Jewish community. And this was so horrific because in those days the Jews had scant protection, if any protection at all. And you went to a local ruler and informed on another Jew, they were liable to be pulled out and shot or killed or whatever, who knows what. It was incredibly bad when you told on other Jews in front of the rulers who were already anti-Semitic, violent, and ungoverned, right? Okay. The way of those who engage in rechilut is to go to the masses or the local ruler and gesticulate with their throat and wink with their eyes so as to imply they got some juicy stuff. Come, let me tell you. So that the listener will pester them to tell the gossip. Therefore, they are called in in the translation of Onkelos, Ochle Kortzin, meaning those who gesticulate with hints. Now, in Hebrew, they would refer to them, those who engage in rechilut, as those who go about as a rachil. The word rachil meaning the same as it does in the following verse from Song of Songs, the merchant's cosmetic powders, kol avkat rochel. Right? So a rochel, as seen in the book of Song of Songs, is a merchant. For a merchant goes about all day buying from here and going there to sell, buying and selling, and that's what these gossip people do. They buy and sell their gossip. Oh, this guy is going to get so angry when he hears this. Let me tell him. Oh, I can't believe what I saw. I can't wait to. They're always buying and selling. Oh, really? What did you hear about so and so? Right? I just told you about Frank. I heard that something crazy went down at John's party the other night. What happened? Come on, spill the beans. Spill the beans. You collect your information from this one. You're a negative information peddler. Buying and selling, spreading disharmony, hatred, discord, dissent, wherever you go. You're a merchant of evil. Okay.
What's the payoff?
What's the payoff?
Yeah, for the person doing it.
The sick, perverse pleasure of saying negative things about other people, which most of us are pretty aware of. Maybe not you, but most of us are aware. There's a certain joy in just being able to, dude, you're not going to believe this. Bam, bam, and there's that shock look. No way, really?
I have baggage too.
Okay, there you go. So then you know. Alrighty, source number 4, Maimonides. Hilchos Deos, Laws of Deot, 7:1-2. Rechilos, one who bears tales about his friend, transgresses a negative prohibition, as it says, you shall not go as a peddler amongst your people. And even though one is not, now there are certain laws that if you transgress them, you're liable for lashes. For example, eating chametz on Passover or whatever it is. Even though this is not liable for lashes, it is still a great sin and causes the deaths of many Jews, as we see in the story of Doeg the Edomite. Doeg the Edomite was an advisor to Saul, the king. Saul was trying to find David, who he wanted to kill. David was sheltered in a city called Nov, Ira Kohanim. And Doeg the Edomite went and told Saul that the Edomites, that the people of the city of Nov were protecting David and hiding him, and King Saul wiped out the city of Nov. Now that was wrong on Saul's part, big time. He felt that King David was trying to usurp the throne, he was trying to create a rebellion, and therefore anybody else who was trying to aid and abet him was aiding and abetting rebellion, but he wiped out the whole city, and that happened through the rechilut of Doeg the Edomite. Who is a peddler? This is one who carries information and goes from this one to that one and says, so said so-and-so, I heard this about this one. Even if it is true, it still destroys the world. There's a much greater sin in this, and it is also included in the prohibition, and that is lashon hara, that one speaks negatively about his friend, even if what he says is entirely true. So there we have our sources for the first two. We've got our sources for lashon hara, our sources for rechilut. And now we move on to the law of motzi shem ra. Now the law of motzi shem ra comes from a very interesting passage in the Torah. The situation is like this. Somebody marries a girl, and everyone assumes that she was virtuous. If you don't know what I mean, think Mary. Not really, but think Mary. Okay, virtuous. Okay, that kind of birth, right? Okay, now, they think she had never been with another man. The husband comes the day after the wedding and says, my wife was not virtuous. She lied to me. Not only was she not virtuous, but she acted in an unvirtuous way with this and this person on this and this time. And then we bring proof that what he was saying was not true. He defamed a Jewish girl. That's called defamation. The Torah says, and they will fine him 100 silver shekels and give him to the girl's father because he defamed a virgin of Yisrael, and she shall remain his wife. He may not divorce her all of his life. Now, she may say, I want a divorce. Right? She has the right to say, I want out. But if, let's say, I don't know, for whatever reason, she still wants to stay in the marriage, he is not allowed to divorce her after that. After he defamed her, maybe she thinks, listen, I've already been so defamed, where am I going to go from here? So I might as well just stick with this guy, and hopefully there was some good stuff in our relationship, and hopefully I'll be able to rebuild it. Whatever it is, she can say, he's not allowed to divorce her against her will. She's allowed to say, I want out. But he can't divorce her now after he went and defamed her.
Why would he do that?
Why would he do that? People do nasty things. I don't know. Things didn't work out the way he hoped it would. The wedding night. I don't know. Yes?
Why did the shekels go to her father and not to her?
That's a very good question. Because it's talking about a very young girl in this case, where her father is sort of her trustee at this point. It's talking about a very young girl. People used to get married very young then. Okay. Next. Now we move on to what we called ona'as dvarim, painting somebody with words. Now what we're going to look at is two sources, two verses in the Torah. They're both in the book of Leviticus, and they're literally 3 verses apart. They're verse 25:14 and 25:17. Okay, they're 3 verses apart. If you sell anything to your neighbor or purchase something from your neighbor, do not pain one another. That's verse 14. Verse 17, you shall not pain one another, and you shall fear your God, for I am Hashem your God. Now you just said in verse 14, don't pain one another. And now you're saying it again in verse 17. It's not repetition. What is it? It must be clearly referring to 2 separate things. Well, the verse in 14 is dealing with business matters. When you sell something or buy something, do not pain your neighbor, which means that there it's referring to paying them by cheating them financially. Verse number 17 is saying, do not pain someone with words. Just don't pain them. Don't say to them, that shirt reminds me of your brother because it's forest green. Don't say, oh, this lock, yeah, I'm sure you could do that. Don't remind someone of their negative past. And by the way, in the second verse, what did it say? You shall not pain one another, and you shall fear your God, for I am Hashem your God. Here again, remember, this is the real one where passive-aggressive comes in. Oh, I'm just joking around. Don't worry about it. I am Hashem your God. I know that what you're doing is cruel. You can tell the world, I'm just joking. You can't take a joke. No, I'm Hashem your God. I know the scoop. That's why it's exactly, again, written in this verse. Okay, source number 7, you shall not pain one another. This refers to paining through words. You might have thought it refers to monetary cheating, but when it said previously, 3 verses earlier, do not pain one another, monetary cheating was spoken of. So how do I explain the one in this verse in 17? It must be referring to pain one another with words. Okay. And if you look at the bottom of source 8, by the way, just the bottom part, you shall fear your God, he who knows men's thoughts. He knows it. Regarding anything which is a matter of conscience, known only to the person involved, it says you shall fear your God. Many places in the Torah it says, I am Hashem, your God, and you shall fear your God. And that's almost always or always linked up to things where you could claim innocence, and that's when God says, I got this. Next, now we go to the final one, the Lashon Hara dust. Source number 9, and similar is Avak Lashon Hara. It's not pure Lashon Hara, rather something that has a Lashon Hara-esque angle. Like the dust that rises from something ground with a pestle. So I'm sure yesterday, when you were grinding your wheat with the pestle, you were grinding and grinding away, or maybe your drugstore, you went to your RX, the RX symbol is always with the pestle and the mortar, because that's usually, you know what, by the way? I actually believe it. I believe that in my drugstore, they're grinding stuff with a mortar and pestle. You know why? Because if I go and I give them a script, they're like, come back in 3 hours. Now, what are you doing? You're in the back over there. What's going on? It's a small little area. You got a bunch of pills in a bottle. And you got to transfer from a big bottle to a little bottle and print up a thing that says, take this 3 times a day for the next 12 days. 3 hours? You must be making it from fresh. You've got all kinds of chemicals over there, and you're grinding it out with the pestle, because I have no other explanation for what goes on in the pharmacy. Okay. Anyway. So, what's examples of avak lashon hara? Here's a very interesting one. The example brought here in source number 10 on the Rashbam on Bava Batra 165a. The Rashbam was an early commentator. He says, avak lashon hara, like they say, there's always a fire in so-and-so's house. Now, when I say a fire, it's important to understand, I mean, there's a fire in all of our house right now. There's a little gas light under our thing. But basically, a fire means there's always food cooking over there. In modern day terms, we'd be like, oh, you're going to the Burnhams. There's always a party in the Burnhams' house. Now, that is very, very on the border. I could be saying it in admiration, right? Like, dude, you're going to the Burnhams' house this Friday night? It's amazing. It's always a party in the Burnhams' house. Positive, right? Oh, dude, you're going to the Burnhams? Dude, it's always a party over there. Like, they're partying 24/7. Irresponsible, right? All I do is change my tone of voice. The exact same words. The exact same words. It's always a party in the Burnhams' house. Like, you'll have such a good time. Or, the Burnhams, always parties there. Right? So the same words, different inflection in my tone. Positive speech, negative speech.
Body language
Body language.
is important,
Yep.
I think.
Yep, I agree with you too.
Say one thing. but
So
your body-
I can even say with flat affect. Watch this. I'll say the same words in flat affect, and just the way I'm like, you're going to the Burnhams? It's always a party at the Burnhams. Or you're going to the Burnhams? It's always a party at the Burnhams, right? Just body language. Okay. So much more is said through our bodies than our mouths. How common is lashon hara? Well, at least avak lashon hara is very common. This source comes from the Talmud itself, Bava Batra 165a. Rabbi Yehuda said in the name of Rav, the majority of people commit thievery. Petty thievery, by the way. We're not talking about like robbing a bank. Although I've got a funny feeling at least the majority of people in this room have done some pretty heavy larceny. No, I'm kidding. So petty thievery could just mean you picked up someone. It's funny. There was a woman, they called me up they wanted to ask a rabbinical question, and they called me up and said, you know why my husband said we should call you? Because he was with you at Partners on Tuesday night, and he asked you to use your pen that you were using, and you said, hold on a second, it's not my pen, I borrowed it from so-and-so, let me find out if it's okay. I don't have the right to give someone else's pen to somebody else. They lent it to me for my use. I'm a responsible person. Whatever it is, I can't give it to someone else. If I just literally, you pick up someone else's pen on the table and start using it, it's just a pen. How much is the value of the ink? But it's not yours to touch. We wake people up sometimes. We come into a house and we're loud, and we wake somebody up. That could be stealing their sleep. So there's a lot of different kinds of thievery. But anyway, it says, the majority of people commit thievery, the minority adultery, and everyone lashon hara. Everyone has the Gemara? Well, rather, everyone speaks avak lashon hara. At least everyone's guilty of the dust of lashon hara. I wish I could say that it's the last thing that we ever speak is only the dust of lashon hara, but I would say a pretty high percentage of people speak actual lashon hara, but not on a regular basis. I don't think a lot of us are going around on a regular basis gossiping. Okay, let's see some other examples of avak lashon hara. And these are the things, Maimonides, and these are the things that are only the dust of lashon hara. How is this? Who would have thought that so-and-so would have turned out so good? All right, let's say I say that. Who would have thought that Bob would be such an upstanding citizen? I'm saying something so nice about him, right? He's an upstanding... Stop! Let's not talk about John. I don't want to talk about John. All right? And one who speaks well of someone before his enemies, here's a crazy one. This is also avak lashon hara. I come into a room, and I know that everybody in that room, for whatever reason, hates Bob. And I go in and I'm like, hey guys, Bob is the most amazing person. I just had a meeting. He's such a great guy. What's going to then come out of their mouths? No, he's not. He's rotten to the core. And the other guy's like, that guy is selfish. Don't talk to him. Before you know it, it's like a fest. A Shark Tank feeding frenzy where they're just like ragging on Bob because I had to come in there and just float it out there that he's such a great guy, knowing that the people in that room hate Bob.
Oh, Bob.
Okay? So, one who speaks of someone well before his enemies, that is also lashon hara, because this causes them to speak bad of him. And on this, Solomon said in his wisdom, one who blesses his friend in a loud voice in the morning arises and finds that it was a curse for him, that through his goodness comes negativity. And similarly, one who speaks Lashon Hara in a joking manner, as if he's not talking out of hate, and also one who speaks with trickery, as if he didn't know that his words were Lashon Hara or Rechilut, and as soon as someone protests, he says, I don't know what, I didn't know what you're talking about. That is Lashon Hara too. Okay. We're running out of time. We can go on for hours about this. There's books and books written about this. Couple of things. There are times where you need to speak Lashon Hara, where you are required to speak Lashon Hara. For example, you personally know that somebody has a severe mental instability. On the outside, they can appear very, very normal, but they've got serious mental instability. And someone is dating that person for a few weeks, and they want to know more about that person, and they come over to you and ask you about that person. Can you tell me about this guy? I just started seeing him a few weeks ago. It seems to be going well. He seems really charming. I'd like to know a little bit more about him. Now is not your time to be a hero and say, I can't speak Lashon Hara. Oh yeah, he's a great guy. No. That's what we call Lashon Hara L'To'eles, which means for a positive purpose. There are specific criteria that you need before speaking Lashon Hara L'To'eles. They are dealt with in length in source number 14. We can't cover it right now, but I invite you all to look at it. And furthermore, important thing to remember is that not only is it Lashon Hara to speak Lashon Hara, it's forbidden to listen to Lashon Hara and believe Lashon Hara. So if you're in a circle, and that circle turns into a gossip circle, it's time for you to go refill your Chardonnay. Get out of it. You know what I'm saying? You need a breath of fresh air. You can't be, hopefully you'd like to stop it, and if you can stop it, stop it. Don't stand idly by your friend's blood. But if you can't, then go away. Even if you say, I'm not going to believe it. I'm going to stick around in the conversation. I don't believe anything that I hear. No, of course not. These are just gossipers. No, you're not allowed to hear it. You're not allowed to listen to it. And you're definitely not allowed to believe it. The good news is that if we do practice, remember we started off today, you don't have the right to your own property. We all have an obligation not to touch your property. We don't have the rights. We don't have a right of free speech in Judaism. We have a responsibility of compassionate, caring, and responsible speech. But when we all fulfill our duties and refrain from speaking Lashon Hara, this world is a much, much more beautiful place. Let's go out and make it that way.